listen to this because he talks about this Texas startup that, just take a listen.
There are new questions about the knife sheath and where it was sent to be tested. My next guest has new information on that. Joining us now is journalist and best-selling author Howard Bloom, who has worked for the New York Times and Vanity Fair. He is currently writing a book about Bryan Kohberger and covering the case for Air Mail News. Thank you so much for coming on, Howard. I'm a big fan of your recent articles on the case. Appreciate you taking the time tonight. I want to talk about the testing of this knife sheath and what you have learned about it.
Well, as you pointed out earlier, the police were all along moving forward, even though we in the media, the public, didn't know what was happening. And they were focusing on Bryan Kohberger, but they couldn't completely make the case so they could issue an arrest warrant. What they did is they had the knife sheath, and they had on the button of the knife sheath, they had touch DNA, and they had no way to tie that to Kohberger. And the Idaho lab came up with this idea of using a separate lab in Texas. This lab had specialized in proprietary devices that made what is called kinship DNA.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you're saying this lab that they sent the knife sheath to has never been used before except in cold cases?
Yes, this was the first time they were willing to take a chance. They wanted desperately to make an arrest. They wanted desperately to tie the suspect to this knife sheath. So meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, they had that midnight garbage run.
Right.
They picked up garbage that was the father's DNA. They could then send that to the lab, tied to the knife sheath, and they could make this kinship. And now they could say within 0.99.9% positive.
Right.
That this was
go in, Howard, on this Texas lab, because this is new information that you've reported that I didn't know until you reported it. When you say never before done technology that they're using, that it's only been used on cold cases, I mean, couldn't this be an issue for the prosecution? This seems like something the defense could really zero in on. Why did the knife sheath get sent to this lab that has never done this kind of work
I don't
before?
think so. I actually think it will reinforce the prosecution's case. This lab is very respectable. Their cases, their evidence has been, the methodology has been held up in court time after time, and I think this reinforces the prosecution's case. I don't think it will be, it's not a positive for Kohberger.
Look at how confused Brian Entin is right now, because he started off saying this is a brand new company that's never done this before, and now in this love and respect the work that he does, but he was filling in for Dan Abrams, and that was some time ago that he was talking about this. Anything that you have to add to what was said here, Ed?
Like trashing this technology in this lab, and it was all, and then by the end of the interview, oh, it's the best thing since sliced bread. There was nothing wrong with what they did, okay, and it'll hold up in court. I am confident of the fact that will be the case. Now,
the company delivers a warning to anyone who thinks they'll get away with murder.
Up in the woodlands behind closed doors at Othram, Kristen Middleman sees a world without cold cases.
People won't have to wait decades to find out what happened to their loved one ever again.
The lab, built in 2018, uses one of the most powerful DNA sequencers on the market to unlock answers from forensic evidence. Evidence often worn down with time or too tiny to extract with traditional methods.
You need a very small percentage of the population in order to be able to identify everyone, and that small percentage of the population is already in these databases.
What's unique about their technique, they're doing it on crime scene evidence. This is often done in a medical setting. By building a DNA profile, Othram says they can then pinpoint who a victim or a perpetrator is, providing that vital information to law enforcement.
What street corner can you go to solve a cold case? And so we saw an opportunity to bring the technology to an area that's just massively, underserved.